Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Today, we are back from our hiatus. Thank you so much for being patient with us while we were gone for a few episodes, but you still had all that fun content. So,
oh my gosh, such fun content.
I mean,
such fun things we talk about.
That's right.
I mean, we just can't fit it all in. So that's, it's just how it is.
We could, but we don't.
Well,
that we can take hiatuses now and again.
That's true too.
Yes.
Because we had to do some, summer vacay.
That's right.
Not going anywhere, but staying here and just,
right.
not doing.
And you had plans to go places and do things, and they kind of changed. And
I did.
And it's just... Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's also very, very hot.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's like the surface of the sun here.
I don't understand. It's just,
like the hottest summer I can ever remember.
Yeah, I don't even have words to describe it. Yeah. I'm just stunned. Yeah. I'm stunned. I'm just stunned. Sorry. I'm going to lapse into a Golden Girls episode.
A quote unquote cool day is 102 Fahrenheit.
It's like paralyzing in some ways.
Yeah.
But then I sit at a desk inside and I do work or I do something and the AC, and then I get a little chilled because you're in the AC and you're like, oh, go outside and get that fresh air. And you walk outside and it's 15 seconds before you're like, whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. Well, and it's humid too. So, but it won't rain.
But it won't rain.
So it is literally, it is the same feeling when you open an oven that has something with a lot of moisture in it. And you open the oven and you get hit in the face by that hot and moist air.
Yes.
That's exactly what it feels like walking outside right now.
Yeah. So it was a good summer for a hiatus, for us to stay inside and do a vacation. But to be fair, I did go outside. I have an excellent tan.
You do have an excellent tan this year.
I mean, what's funny is that's not even dark, but it's an excellent tan compared to my normal, level of transparency that my skin operates on. You cannot see through my skin right now. Mm-hmm. It's pretty, it's impressive. Solid. Yeah. So I did actually go outside. And it was hot, and you had to drink a lot of water and use a lot of sunscreen. Mm-hmm. So I made the use of it, even though it was terribly hot. But but I was always kind of mostly inside by the time the peak of the day hit,
right?
Which may surprise a lot of people if you're not from Texas, because the peak of the day is often around that noon, 1 o'clock time, and that's not the truth here.
Right.
It's 4 o'clock that you're run inside.
Yes,
the sun is coming. Yeah. Well,
yeah, the sun hasn't tried to kill us yet, but it's gonna.
It's gonna. So, that's when you have to come back inside. So, I actually gave us some good morning and early afternoon time to be outside, but then it was nice to run inside and just do nothing.
Right. That's fair. It's
watch TV.
That's right. Or siesta, or, or read a book, or...
Oh, I did read books.
Mm-hmm, you did. I ended up playing a video game instead because Pikmin 4 came out for the Switch. Yeah. And I've been a little bit obsessed.
That's great. I love it.
It's so cute.
Well, we also watch TV.
That's right.
And so Kleo, we have things to talk about.
Yes. Kleo, season 1, episode 1, Big Eden on Netflix.
It's good.
It is good. It's German. Mm-hmm. But it is overdubbed in English, so you have to know where to go. So if you're watching any of the platforms that are streaming, if you're watching something and it comes up with subtitles and you hear it in the original language, that's great. That's an absolutely perfectly fine way to watch whatever. Mm-hmm. Always go to where the little closed captioning is and just see if there's another language.
Yeah.
Because this was overdubbed excellently well.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing how well, this is a whole art.
It is this
art. Whole overdub thing.
And Netflix is good at it.
They are, because I used to watch the 1% or 3%. 3%. And their overdub was so good. The voice casting, I would absolutely believe it if you told me all the actors just came in and redid it in English.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they look.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they'll make sure that the dialogue in whatever language that they're dubbing it into, you don't hear a lot of text after they stop talking.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, like they fit the dialogue to the length at which the actor is speaking. So they may need to change it around a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of fun, like when I watched Squid Game.
Okay.
So I had on the closed captioning.
Okay.
But I also had the overdub on.
Oh, interesting.
So they sometimes said things differently than were in the closed captioning, and you kind of got a little more out of it.
Oh, which one? A little more out of which one?
Well, out of both, because they said one thing verbally, and then in the closed captioning, you would see something different, which is probably closer to the Korean.
Yeah, the Hangul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you find that it told the story a little differently, or did having one kind of add context?
I think they kind of added context because they would say the same things. They would say basically the same stuff, but sometimes you would get a little bit longer if the words they were speaking lasted longer. Sometimes you would get more oral, and sometimes you'd get more in the text.
That's interesting.
And it was really interesting to see how different they were. So,
well, because English, especially an intention-driven language,
right?
We can make a lot out of very few words, and sometimes we can just strip the meaning off of big words, it didn't even have one to begin with.
Yeah,
it's really bananas to me.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting.
Cool.
But Kleo, man, you gotta watch out because those jerks will disavow you even if you are their granddaughter.
I mean, right?
And they really should have known better than to mess with a lethal Stasi secret agent.
I mean, seriously.
I mean,
I don't know why they think they can get away with that. You know what I mean? But then it makes you think.
Because they thought she was going to be in prison forever?
Well, that too. They probably should have known better there too.
I mean, they should have.
But it's interesting because there are real life spies, right?
Yeah.
But that's interesting because when this stuff happens, there are people out there and they have to trust that they can, disavow these individuals and they're not going to come after them. And it makes me wonder, how often is this happening? I mean, we've seen Mission Impossible.
Right. Well, but see, Kleo was not informed that they might disavow her status. She thought she had some protection.
That's true. I don't know how. Yes, that's true.
So Mission Impossible, they're very careful.
Very clear about that.
That's right. If you get caught, it's on you.
We are letting you go. Right. So, I mean, that's true. Well, maybe that's a lesson they learn from stories like this.
Maybe. Perhaps. All right, let's talk about this cast.
Okay.
It'd be relatively brief.
Yeah.
Because they're mostly all German actors that we don't see many other places. But Jella Haza is Kleo. She works almost exclusively in German shows and movies. And she worked in the theater as a child, began really working in earnest in 2009 at just 17 years old. Anna Rust does the English voiceover for her.
Okay.
And she's done voiceover work for video games and other shows and is an actor in her own right on British television. Dimitri Schad is Sven, the wannabe homicide detective. Again, much of his work is in German television, but he was in an episode of Killing Eve, season 3.
Nice.
Yeah. Stephen Campbell Moore does the voiceover for Sven. He's been working on British television for over 20 years. And since his bio on IMDb mentioned it.
Okay.
He's married to Claire Foy.
Oh.
Yeah, who was Queen Elizabeth II in
I
The
love
Crown.
her.
Yeah. I wouldn't have mentioned it if it didn't mention it in his IMDb. Because you shouldn't have to be only known in your profession because of your spouse.
Yeah. But it definitely happens.
Yeah. Jürgen Heinrich is Otto Straub, Cleo's grandfather and high up in the state security service. I imagine he's probably a pretty familiar face to German audiences because he has been working in German television since the 1960s.
Wow.
Yeah, a long, long time. And Rupert Van Sittart does the voiceover for Otto. And if he sounds familiar, it's because he's been in many, many things since the mid-'80s, including 13 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Oh, hey.
He was Jan Royce.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
All right.
The Royce. Anyway, okay. Stay focused, Jackie. Stay focused.
All right. So, recap.
Okay.
So we see the divide between East and West Germany over the Berlin Wall of the late 1980s. East Germany is stark and quiet. West Germany is bright and alive with nightlife. So Kleo uses an underground tunnel to slip to the colorful side, not to escape what looks like a bleak place, but to advance the ideals of East Germany. This is a triumph for the spy, one which will bring her covert career as a spy to an end because she is pregnant and ready to settle down. Before she can do that, Kleo is framed for a crime that not only did she not commit, but was fabricated in order to conceal her secret spy status. Even her beloved grandfather, who raised her and is a high up at the Ministry for State Security, commonly known as the Stasi, refuses to protect her. As a political prisoner in the German Democratic Republic, Kleo has nothing but time to plan her revenge on those who imprisoned her. When the Berlin Wall falls, all East German political prisoners are released, and with that comes Kleo's chance for answers and vengeance.
I like it.
Okay, so Jella Haza, the actress who played Kleo, she seems like a German version of Elizabeth Moss to me.
Okay. I see that.
I'm like, if they did this in English, it would have been Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah. I can see that.
Like, totally.
Yeah, she has that quality.
Yes.
The heavy stare.
Yeah.
Like it's like heavy and like on you, and she can move so slowly to observe what's around her. It's it's super cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I'm like, they kind of look a little alike, but not enough for that to be it. You're right. It's the stare.
It's the stare. I don't know. Because as soon as you said it, I never thought about it. But when you said it, I just pictured Kleo doing the look around thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jella Haza shared with Time News her thoughts about the character. Kleo is more of an anti-hero. She's too fragile, too flawed, too longing, too loving to be a real villain. I'm like, I think she's a real villain, but this is, her internal work. She had to give Kleo some redeeming qualities, which I get.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, this whole thing has a Count of Monte Cristo thing going on. Am I right?
That's literally what I'm going to talk about next.
Oh, yay! I love that book so much. So, I can see why she feels that way because it's the anti-hero because it's the revenge villain.
Right.
And the revenge villain is the vigilante.
Yeah.
And something about that makes them feel like the good guy when they're the bad guy. But they're all bad guys. So I don't know. It's hard. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
She also had this to say, the character is very violent. I had to ask myself how I can justify this excess of violence and her murders. Kleo is initially robbed of the security of her life, then the system she has lived in, and then the people around her. She loses faith in life. On her journey, she tries to regain her dignity bit by bit. And that is really it. She's trying to regain her dignity.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that starting title card.
Okay.
In just a minute.
Okay.
But the inspiration for Kleo's character very much comes from Alexander Dumas's Count of Monte Cristo. Wrongfully imprisoned, breaks out, seeks revenge.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
It's so good. Okay, but the movie is really good.
The Count of Monte Cristo?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I've always liked the movie.
I have never seen it.
It's really good. I mean, as far as I love the book and I totally enjoy the movie. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth it. If you haven't read it, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. So you have your assignments. Okay.
And then the German name Kleo, so Kleo, is a name of German origin.
Okay.
It means glory. Oh. And I kind of thought that made sense for an East German spy. It seems like glory would be something that they would be searching for.
Yes. That makes total sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Is It True? Psychology Break and Real Life after these messages.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, NSA, we promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true? So let's talk about that little disclaimer, the little title card at the beginning. This is a true story. None of it really happened.
I absolutely adore that.
I mean, I think it's great. It's hilarious. It's so funny. But also like it's more informative than you realize.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Because it's a deep statement.
Right.
Right? It's true because what's true is the truth, and the truth is more than just the sequence of events.
Right.
Right? Like getting your dignity back, being betrayed, wanting to, establish your credibility and play with the big boys in a society that doesn't want you playing with the big boys.
Yeah.
And that there's conflict and family conflicts and all of the stuff. Like all these things, though there's such truth revealed. But this sequence of events never happened.
Right. And that's exactly it. HITC had an article all about this that, is not factual, but the background information is very much factual.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So not only are these the life events and life experiences factual in that you can understand their meaning, you can also understand that the things surrounding it were real. The Stasi was real. The minister's special issues task force really existed. The whole creative team had manuals from East Germany and different documents to reference in order to be able to make this as accurate as they could.
Yeah.
While still maintaining a fictional story in which it happens. So
it's pretty amazing.
The world is real, even if the events aren't real.
And they did a fabulous job.
They really did.
It felt real. And I realized how few things I've ever seen in this time period in Germany.
Right. I only sort of vaguely remember the Berlin Wall falling. I was almost a teenager when it came down. And, the Iron Curtain fell, and I understood it was a big deal. But I remember looking at maps, learning geography and seeing East and West Germany.
Right.
And knowing that they were separate, and now they no longer would be.
Yeah, and I remember watching TV and seeing clips of people coming and doing it themselves, like tearing down the wall in their backyard.
Yeah.
Like there was some interesting news clips of neighbors tearing down the wall that separated them.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. But yeah, it's still vague for sure.
It's kind of like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was alive when the events of Chernobyl happened until I watched the show.
Yeah, I thought that was like ancient history.
I thought it was like in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was alive for this. How did I not know about this?
No, it's just because they didn't want you to know about it.
Well, this is also
they are very good at that.
Right.
Right. But it is when you see clips of Chernobyl, it looks like something out of Indiana Jones in the get in a fridge.
Yeah.
Hide yourself in a fridge. Sorry, if you don't know what scene I'm talking about, it's okay. Just, you know what? Send us a DM. We'll send you a clip.
Yeah. For sure.
Also, go see the new Indiana Jones movie. It's very fun.
It was super fun. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. I love it.
If you like Indiana Jones, if you've liked the other movies, you will like this movie. It is the same formula, for lack of a better way of talking about it, but with a different story.
And you know what? If you didn't like the very last one that came out, with
Crystal
aliens
Skull.
and yes, if you didn't like that one, you will still like this one.
Yes, because they basically ignored that one ever happened.
Basically, I mean, kind of. There's still like little threads, but
barely,
I don't know.
Barely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the Stasi,
okay,
the firm, the Ministry for State Security, the State Security Service. These are all names for the real surveillance organization that was in East Germany.
Yeah.
It was, if this tells you anything, it was modeled after the KGB.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yup, exactly.
Yeah.
And it started out as a pretty small organization. And then Erich Mielke had a long tenure as director of the organization. 32 years. He was like the J. Edgar Hoover was for the FBI. Like, he transformed the Stasi into what it became. And his goal was to infiltrate every institution of society and every aspect of daily life for East German people. According to Britannica.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
they had files on over 6 million East German citizens. Over a third of the population had a file.
I mean,
in by 1989. This was in the 80s. Everything was paper.
Everything was paper. Well,
almost
not everything, because IT really started late in the 60s doing digital record keeping. But
East Germany, it was all paper.
In East Germany, they would not have spent the money for IBM to come in and do that.
So they did not.
It wouldn't have spread there yet. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they wouldn't have.
No.
It makes me wonder. They're secret police. What do we not know?
Oh,
you know?
Well, we know a lot because the Stasi records are now open to the public.
Right.
So like in 2015, I think is what I read. I don't have my information exactly, but I'm pretty sure in 2015, they opened up all of those records for everybody. Okay. And you can search on the internet of the records and to see if they have one. I looked up.
Okay. I'm having a moment. Do you remember Man in High Castle?
Yeah.
All right. And it was all about the films.
The films. Yeah. Okay. Shut up about the stupid films.
Yes. But it was all about the films. These films that were like, well, anyways, these films. There were actual film, right? Like on a reel.
Right.
That's what data was on.
Right.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So like if you had a supercomputer, the data would look like a film reel.
Right.
And all of a sudden, connecting some dots.
Oh, interesting.
That the films, as they saw it,
actually had more information.
Was the thing that it was hiding in plain sight. That's why they were after the films, not because it was really about jumping worlds. Sorry, spoilers. Or multiverses or different endings, but because on those was the story of everyone.
Oh boy, they could have done a little more expository and made that show a lot better.
Or they could have done anything to make that. It started off so good.
Oh gosh, the first season was really good.
Yes.
And then it all fell apart.
It did.
Other than the fact that they shouted about the film constantly.
The films, I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
I did not care about the films anymore. Right. And it was like the central piece of it. Anyway, It's just so funny because we're talking about that and I'm talking about these computers and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, what if that's what they were trying to do? And then the writers got overruled and that's why the roast show sucks. I don't know.
Maybe.
Writers, come back. We love you.
Yes. The strike can end any day now.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So they had a foreign espionage element, which is what Kleo was a part of.
Right, okay.
But it was almost entirely focused on West Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't like global.
Right,
It
not
seemed
far-reaching.
like their ultimate goal was global domination. And yet they were very focused just on West Germany.
Okay.
It was interesting. It was formally disbanded in 1990, shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall, February of 1990. But in January of 1990, the East German people flooded the headquarters of the Stasi to prevent them from destroying the records.
Good job.
Yep.
Well done.
Yep.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the mission that gets Kleo noticed in West Germany takes place at a nightclub, Big Eden. Big Eden was real.
Okay.
It was a real nightclub. It was founded by Playboy Rolf Eden in 1967.
Okay.
It was a international hotspot throughout the 70s. Maybe a little less so in the 80s, but still like a part of the nightlife. And it was open until 2006.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked fun.
Yeah.
German nightclubs always look fun.
Yeah.
The discos.
Well, the nightclubs and television shows always look fun.
They always look more fun than they are.
I was just going to say, like, you get there and you forget that when you're actually there, especially if you're single, there's a lot of anxiety around it all, especially as a woman. You know, like, is anybody going to take an interest in me? Is somebody going to roofie my drink? You know, I mean, there's all these like, or what if they play music I hate, or what if the floor is sticky?
And it will be.
It will be.
It will be. The floor is sticky.
And it was actually pretty well lit for a nightclub.
Yeah, it had good lighting. Of course, you know, needing to have cameras in there.
Yeah.
Helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there was very few true nightclubs I enjoyed when I was younger. And then there were others I went to, and then it was always like, ugh.
Yeah.
Such a pain. You know, it's not fun. But there was one in Georgia that was really fun, and they did have foam night, and it was a lot of fun. Because they had a sunken dance floor in the middle.
Oh, nice.
So foam night was freaking like bath night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
they were like, we're going to make this floor not sticky.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody's going to have a whole lot of fun.
They hosed you off when you walked outside.
Yeah. Oh, that's
It
fun.
was really fun. I mean, they did it well. And there was a few others, but like in general, like, yeah, you go and then you're like, okay, I don't know. But other people party all night long, it seems, but I don't know.
Maybe it's just not my scene.
Maybe not. I mean, I enjoy it. Dancing, obviously. Like,
right.
So maybe that's why I enjoyed several of them for longer, but I definitely wasn't a close it down. I always ended up at Waffle House in due time.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. You're like, enough of this. Well, and back then they let people smoke in there. And so
that may have been part of the problem.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that it got so smoky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and bars, like dive bars that were really fun, but you couldn't breathe in them.
Right.
And that has been the most fun because I so far enjoy going to like dive bars and small clubs now.
Right.
Because it is clean in there and it's
Yes.
like, all right. I mean, the floor's still sticky, but you could breathe, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I wondered what the substance was that could substitute for cocaine but caused such terrible reaction as Cleo's victim suffered.
Yeah.
It was horrific, but also like kind of fun to watch. So my guess is that it's strychnine.
Okay. I think that's a really good guess.
I mean, they never specified what it was, but I was like, what could do this?
Right.
So it's better known as rat poison.
Oh, yes.
If you don't know what strychnine is, you can buy it pretty much anywhere, which makes it ubiquitous, but also like super dangerous.
Right.
But it's white, odorless, bitter, crystalline material.
Yeah, you can mix that. You can cut that right in,
or
right?
just replace it entirely. And you might not even notice at first. And it can be very dangerous if it's inhaled. You only need a small amount to be able to have a pretty severe reaction in humans. Mostly what it'll do is it'll cause severe spasms, and as the muscles tire, then you stop breathing.
Okay.
So it can cause bleeding, but that's not the main symptom. I think they amped that up a little bit. Strychnine itself, the poisoning itself, isn't likely to cause long-term health effects, but it's your body's reaction to it. So if you're deprived of oxygen, you don't breathe,
it causes
stuff like
all
that.
of the complications.
So it can cause kidney failure and things like that. But that's not from strychnine; it's from the effects of the strychnine.
Okay. Yeah. My guess had been ricin.
Oh, okay.
Because you need so little of it, and you don't even have to replace the material,
right?
Because it's just a small drop.
Yeah.
But hardly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
according to Breaking Bad, ricin wouldn't have quite that quick of an effect because Walter White killed somebody with ricin at the very end, and she had flu-like symptoms.
Yeah, and it came on slowly.
It was over 12 to 24 hours.
That's right.
So I don't know that it would be ricin. That's why I didn't go looking for ricin.
That's interesting. But I know that it's used in a lot of little assassinations when people realize it and they're trying to get to the hospital. Are there different types?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Walter. Tell us more.
So according to Rat Trap Incorporated, it would take probably 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
To have
for the strychnine?
For the strychnine to have that much of an effect. So maybe amplified.
Yeah. Okay, so I had to do a little research. Right? Okay. Yeah, you're right. I don't think there's different kinds. And I remember that episode of Breaking Bad. And this from emergencycdc.gov says ricin is early symptoms as early as 4 to 8 hours, as late as 24.
Okay.
Typically 10.
Okay. Oh,
yeah. Okay.
10.
Typically 10 hours. So.
Okay.
All right.
Huh.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, there you go for your situational awareness there. Okay. So strychnine, probably.
There was Thilo, the sweet junkie who took over Cleo's apartment after the fall of the Berlin Wall, but before she was released from prison. And Kleo holds a gun to his head in the middle of his forehead. And he's so just innocently and hilariously says that's where his friend drilled a hole for the third eye.
He's so high.
He's so high that he is absolutely unbothered by the fact that she's holding a gun to his head, and he realizes that's where the third eye is. And that's when she realizes that he is he is not a threat.
Yeah, he's harmless.
So, third eye.
Okay. I can't even imagine where you were going
It's a real thing. It's called autotrepanation, the act of drilling a hole into your own skull.
What?
So there's
a
man.
The drilling part is real?
Yes.
I'm floored. No, hold on. I got to process this. I'm sorry. I mean, not a lobotomy.
No, it's different than that.
We drill into they did that. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear the rest.
Okay. So Vice has an article. I drilled a hole into my own skull to stay high forever.
It makes you stay high forever?
Okay, we'll get to that.
Okay. I'm say more quickly. Okay.
So Joe Mellon in 1970.
Mellon. His name is Joe Mellon. Joe Mellon.
He put a hole in his own melon. Yep. He wrote a book called Bore Hole.
It's not even as witty as his name.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm right. I'm back.
Are you now? I don't think you are. You're not. Yeah, okay. You're
whew, I'm trying.
Yeah. So he wrote this whole book about his journey towards autotrepanation.
Okay.
It took him 3 tries.
Oh, God. Maybe he should have enlisted help.
Well, it's illegal in most places.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So he probably couldn't really get help. And so he did it himself.
Well, now that brings up a whole other host of issues right now.
I mean, it's just It's a whole thing. This article is fascinating.
The puns are out of this world right now. Yeah. Okay.
According to Joe.
Okay.
Joe Mellon.
Joe Mellon.
It's the oldest operation in the world and has been done on every continent. Trepan skulls and Incan tombs were probably a part of the initiation to a priest caste. So, like, almost all the priests in Incan times had this third eye hole in their head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said, it isn't a great high. It just restores you to that youthful level of vitality. He's something about blood flow and
boy,
wow. I'm like, wow, that's a lot.
I'm gonna have to, but it's illegal.
Most places.
Because I kind of feel like, I mean, I hate to say this, but why? Hands off.
Yeah.
Hands off. People are gonna do what they're gonna do.
It seems like it would be safer and healthier to
be able to go.
Yeah, to be able to go to a doctor and have it done in a sterile environment.
At least sterile.
I mean,
but I mean, and I could see them regulating, like, if you do this, you don't maybe qualify for certain things.
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe to say, like, we just can't protect you.
Right.
You know, like, swim at your own risk. Drill at your own risk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. I'm just brainstorming, but it just sounds interesting why that they had something happen that made them make it illegal.
Right.
You know, because that's where rules come from. Somebody did it. Well, people did it, but something happened. That's interesting.
Probably people did it to themselves and then, either lost their mind or went too deep or...
And then died.
Yeah, and then died.
And so people made it. Yeah. But it was a big enough problem. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and he does say, don't do it to yourself.
Oh, good.
He doesn't advise that any longer. Though he's, at least in 2016, he was still alive.
Wow.
And still felt like it was...
Helpful?
He still felt more youthful.
Does the hole go all the way through the...
Oh, yes.
Oh.
All the way through. That's the only way it works.
Okay.
Is if it goes all the way through. Way it works. I don't know if it really works. It's not done enough.
How do you not get ill?
He said he did, he took great pains to make sure that he was being very clean about everything, that as much as possible, everything was sterilized.
But that means he still has an open hole.
Well, it grew over, I guess.
But the skull doesn't. That's the point, right?
Yeah. But, I mean...
But the skin grows over.
The skin grows over. Yeah, I do.
We could stay here all day.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't understand it. Maybe I would understand it if I had it done.
I don't know. Maybe there's a YouTube video.
That's a level of YouTube I'm not ready to visit. Because you know what comes next? A bunch of 4chan crap. That's how the algorithm does. Right now, my algorithm feeds me true crime and Prince videos on YouTube. This is it. I mean, the things that I watch on YouTube are for my podcast. These are the things that we watch. I'm not going to the...
We need a different
auto
account.
trepanation.
We need another account so we can go find these things.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Otto claims that he had no choice but to turn in his granddaughter, Kleo, superior's orders. Mm-hmm. I'm like, is that a legitimate defense? Well, not according to the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah.
But historians.org has a whole article about are superior's orders a legitimate defense. And that's basically saying that people who committed heinous acts or illegal acts didn't do it of their own free will. They were ordered to do so.
Right.
So for what it's worth, the U.S. didn't recognize this at all until 1914. And that you could be court-martialed if you followed an order that was unlawful.
Right.
It wasn't until early 1900s that they made any kind of change and recognized that. But that puts soldiers of any type in a really tough spot.
Mm-hmm,
because
it does.
You don't really understand maybe what the civilized warfare rules are. Mm-hmm. There are certain rules that we're all supposed to follow in civilized warfare so that you don't commit crimes against humanity. But your average soldier may not really know that. And part of the training for your average soldier is follow orders immediately. Obey them right away, because otherwise people die.
People die. Yeah.
But sometimes that might mean you don't have the time or the ability to determine whether that's a lawful order to start with.
Yeah, it's sticky.
So I thought, well, they have a bunch of different views: the American view, the English view, the German view.
Interesting. Let's see what they had to say.
There was the case in particular that they cited here was submarine officers.
Okay.
Who were ordered to sink the lifeboats.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so they were saying, we were just following orders. We didn't know it was wrong.
Right.
So the German Supreme Court said this: military subordinates are under no obligation to question the order of their superior officers, and they can count upon its legality. But no such confidence can be held to exist if such an order is universally known to everybody to be without any doubt whatever against the law. They should have therefore refused to obey. So they're kind of talking out both sides of their mouth.
They're
like, you should expect every order you get is legal.
Yeah.
But if it's absolutely not legal, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's called disavow. You get caught, you're on your own.
Yeah.
But also, you better do it. So don't get caught.
Right.
You know? Oh, so I saw a word. Hold on. I saw a word. You had your article open and I saw a word. What case was this?
Oh, Landovery Castle?
The castle? The High Castle?
Oh my gosh.
I'm having fun with the conspiracy today.
Wow.
Okay. I just thought that was funny. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It is that disavow thing. Like, you absolutely must do it.
Uh-huh. And yet you suffer the consequences.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Terrible.
Mm-hmm. I am not cut out for military service. And for many reasons, I am not. And never was.
Well, maybe not front line like that. Maybe not. Maybe that's not your place.
Yeah, none of it.
But desk work, organizing, please. There's plenty of places you could do a fantastic job. Air Force personnel needs you.
Not anymore. I'm too old now.
Well, yeah, we are.
They don't want me anymore. All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. Psychology break.
Yes.
All right. So Kleo clearly loved her grandfather who raised her, but she kind of had to seek his approval to earn his love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The New York Times had an article. This is a fairly old one from 2009.
Okay.
But it still applies.
Yeah. Okay.
All of these things that they're talking about were things that happened. People learned from people like Phil McGraw, Dr. Phil, and Joe Frost of Super Nanny, that the way to get obedience from your children was to withhold things they needed until they, quote unquote, acted right. So you didn't give them love or approval or encouragement unless they were behaving in the way that you wanted them to.
Yeah.
This was very, very common. This is, I would say, most of us probably grew up like this.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in some respects.
Well, yeah, in some respects.
Yeah.
In some respects, especially when it came to praise or approval that.
Sure.
Right? Maybe not love.
Uh-huh. Right.
Approval and praise, but maybe not love.
Yeah. Well, and like Dr. Phil and Super Nanny both suggested, affection of any kind was not to be given unless they were behaving appropriately.
Yeah.
And that's
hard.
really
Yuck.
not so great. So what it does is it teaches children that they're only lovable if they're acting right.
Right. Yeah. If they're people pleasers. If they're
right.
And by acting right, we mean pleasing the parents.
Right. And the way to get your parents' love is to behave. So in 2004, some researchers did a study and they asked a little over 100 college students, fairly small sample, whether the love that they received from their parents was conditional on some sort of things that they could measure, like their success in school or how hard they practiced for sports, how they suppressed emotions. You know, did you never show anger or fear? Those were things that were rewarded. And so it turned out that when they talked to those students, the ones that received conditional approval did act the way their parents wanted, but the compliance was at a steep price.
Okay.
So they tended to resent and dislike their parents. They felt like they didn't have a lot of agency over their choice. They didn't really have a choice. It put in them a strong internal pressure to behave in a certain way. That they would often feel guilty or ashamed. And when they did accomplish something, that the satisfaction from that was fairly short-lived. And then they interviewed mothers, it's a companion study, who had been raised in this way, that they were only loved when they lived up to their parents' expectations. They felt less worthy as adults. And yet, because that was the only model that they had for raising children, they tended to do that to their children as well. So basically, conditional parenting, counterproductive for what you really want. And then Albert Bandura is the father of the branch of psychology known as the social learning theory. You're nodding your head. I'm like, Jackie will know what this is.
Yes, I do.
He declared that unconditional love would make children directionless and quite unlovable.
That what? Say that again.
He's basically the wrong way. That unconditional love would make children directionless and quite unlovable. So, but what he's saying is unconditional love is no discipline. And that's not helpful either. He kind of comes to this. Maybe he was looking at it from I'm gonna love you no matter what you do, and everything you do is great, and no direction, no sort of it's
hard to know what he was thinking there.
I know, but he's wrong.
Social learning theory is not necessarily a parental strategy. So, so he's, it's interesting to hear him say that. Ugh.
Yeah. Not so great.
That's that thing. We're conflating all of the concepts, right? Between, like you said, love, unconditional love, meaning no boundaries, no discipline or mentoring or teaching or anything like that. And it's hard because you do have, as kids though, that the fear of the discipline makes it feel like they're unloved even though they might be loved. And you have to unravel that for your kid as they grow up.
Well, and that's just it, because they need to feel loved and secure, but also understand that there's certain ways to behave. Now, so in practice, the way you can do that is by giving them autonomy support. So if you ask them to do something, tell them why you're asking them to do it. You give them as many opportunities as you are able to help them make decisions. Now, you can start this small when they're really little people.
You really can.
Would you like to wear this or this? These are two different outfits that are both appropriate for whatever activity or weather is happening that day. You give the kid a choice and they feel like they have agency over it. So
yes, because it is hard. It's sad because Kids don't have agency. They're children. But we have to teach them what agency is.
Yes.
Right? And so we have to give those choices so that we model it.
Right.
So that they can learn how to use agency as they grow up. Because they naturally do feel agency, but as children, they're helpless, right? In a way. So, it is hard. You have to model these choices before they actually have to make a choice.
Right.
Early.
Yeah. Well, and you want to create an environment where they can tell you if there's something in their life that they haven't made a choice about, that just is, that they can come out and tell you.
They can tell you.
So,
yeah. Yeah, it is hard. But and it's hard because a lot of parents who are on the go and maybe working really hard and they don't have that time in the morning.
Right.
They don't have, and it's not because they love their kids any less.
No.
But it's because they don't as adults have agency. They have agency, but they don't because it's a choice. It's not a choice because
you have to work.
You have to go. You have to get them to school. You have to get to work. You have to do the thing.
Yeah.
And then you work all day and you come home and you do the thing. And it's so hard to keep that space in your mind about how do I wait for this small child to make a choice on an outfit? I don't have time for that.
Right.
And so incorporating that in, and unfortunately, the mom very much loves the child. The child feels now that the love is connected to obedience.
Right.
And that's a sad...
Right.
That's what has to be unraveled later to remind the child, no, it wasn't ever connected to obedience.
Right.
Ever.
But it feels
felt
that way. Right.
And you learned it that way.
Right.
And then maybe habits were formed so that the parent learned the child only loves me when they're compliant. And now it's reversed.
Yeah.
Because when the child's not compliant, it makes the mom feel like unloved.
Right. Because she grew up only getting love.
Or just because she has so much to do.
Well, she
can't in the moment take it herself out of the situation to deal with the non-compliance.
Right.
To remind herself that this is just about parenting. So anytime somebody's screaming at you, you don't feel loved.
Right. Well, right.
But so as a parent, you have to take yourself out of that mentally and be like, this is not about me.
Right.
Right. We have to do that. But the kid can't do that. So, but if you as a mom don't do that, you grow up like, they're always screaming at me. They're always throwing that tantrum. They don't feel that lovey feeling with their kid all the time because it's always a fight. Habits are born.
Yeah.
All
right. And the other thing in Psychology Break is that Sven's coworker mentions that he did a good job of not calling a girl who broke his heart all day long, but then he called her 5 times in the night because he was drunk. I was like, why did we drunk dial?
Why do we do this?
So Dr. Sean Horan wrote an article, Why Do People Drunk Dial, for Psychology Today. Basically, it lowers your inhibition levels.
Right. I mean, that part is like a little common jump.
Right.
But why we choose to dial these people?
Okay.
Keep going.
They identified 5 motives to drunk dialing. Social lubricant is that you have more confidence, more courage. You feel a little better about yourself. You can express yourself a little better. And then you also feel a little less accountable for your actions. So there's one.
Okay.
Entertainment. You thought it'd be fun to talk to that person. Coordination. You're drunk and you want to see somebody you haven't seen in a long time. So you call them up to find out where they're at. What club you at?
Okay.
I'm coming there.
All right. I got you.
Good choice or not?
No. If it's after 1 a.m., no.
No. Confession of emotion. You want to call a friend or romantic interest and tell them how much you love and or miss them.
Yeah.
And sexuality. You want to hook up.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's right. So that's it. And they said, as much as you would like to attribute it to one gender over another, it is pretty universal among all genders.
I would have guessed that.
Everybody drunk dials.
Yeah. Or text.
Or now.
But it is funny. I think of that scene in Friends where Rachel is out with a date that she's been set up with. And she's all mad about Ross now being with Julie. And so she borrows that guy's cell phone in the restaurant. And I mean, it's like this big honker of a thing. And that's what we call closure. And dumps it in the wine thing.
Yeah, in the champagne chiller.
Yes.
Like, I felt so bad for that guy. I'm like, she just put his expensive cell phone right in the water. It's ruined.
And it's not waterproof.
No.
Bring out the rice.
I don't even think we knew rice then. I think he was just going to the whatever company. Real life.
Okay.
So we talked about how the strychnine was probably the thing. It has been mistaken in the relatively recent past for cocaine.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is awful.
No.
LA Times. There was a boy in very northern California in a city called Anderson.
Okay.
And he went into his dad's garage and found a bottle on a high shelf and thought it was cocaine.
What?
And it was not. It was strychnine. And he gave it to 3 of his friends. And they snorted it. And one of the 16-year-olds died.
Oh.
And it was awful. They were like, he was not being malicious. He was just made a poor choice.
So wait, hold on now.
He told his friends he could get a hold of some cocaine.
But this boy thought that a bottle up on the shelf was cocaine because something about it showed a white powder. Am I right?
Because he's 14, yeah.
But it wasn't labeled. This father or mother or family had a bottle of strychnine that wasn't labeled as poison. Look, I'm mad. My accent's coming out.
Let me see. Yeah, it was unmarked. Should have at least had a skull and crossbones on it.
At the very least.
So it's happened.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But he didn't die like in 15 seconds, like in the show. Poor kid.
Poor kid. Oh.
So Kleo was a political prisoner, which was super common in East Germany.
I can believe that.
Yep. DW.com, which I believe is a Deutsche Welle, which is a global media outlet. Mm-hmm. There was a man in 1981 who was sentenced to 8.5 years for inciting hatred against the state.
Okay.
As a political prisoner. What he did was he told political jokes to friends in a bar. 8.5 years.
That's awful.
Mm-hmm. This was very much done. There was a number of reasons why it was done.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about one, and I'm going to talk about another with the next article.
Oh, okay.
But it was pretty lucrative for East Germany to do this because East Germany would jail people and tell West Germany that they could have those people out of jail. Even though they were East German citizens, they would basically ransom them to West Germany.
Whoa.
If West Germany paid the money, they would send them over there.
Wow.
And West Germany sent a lot of money to East Germany to get people out of. Yeah.
So if you wanted to get out of East Germany.
Well, that's how why a lot of people, political prisoners, were in jail is because they were trying to escape.
So they were trying to get there so that the state would ransom them.
Right.
Out to.
No, they weren't trying to get, they were just trying to get to West Germany.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, I mean, if you were trying to get out.
Okay, but that was never they were never trying to go to prison to get ransomed out because you weren't sure how quickly or if it would happen.
Right.
So it was if your ultimate goal was to get there, that you may end up there. Really, what you're trying to do is sneak across the wall.
Well, yeah, of course. But like, I mean, if you were, for lack of a better option.
Right.
Like if you were thinking, I mean, I could see people making the mistake of thinking, I'm going to get myself arrested. And then they'll just shoot me over. Right? Like I could see that becoming like a misinformation of what was happening. Mm-hmm. I guess, you know what I'm saying?
Well, probably not, because Kleo was actually pretty lucky because political prisoners were treated very poorly and were put into forced labor situations. Ugh. So, another article from Deutsche Welle. It was part of their economy was to have people in prison.
Okay, yeah.
Because they would force them to do work. And political prisoners were called forced labor because they were imprisoned illegally, basically. They were imprisoned in ways that were not for too long and too severe a punishment for their
what
crime.
they did. Yeah. Labor camp.
Yes. So between 1949 and 1989, somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 300,000 East German citizens were political prisoners.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It was literally to make up for labor shortages. They couldn't get enough people from North Vietnam
to come over and do what they,
East German citizens to come and do the things. So they all prisoners were forced to work almost entirely. And the political prisoners would have to do the worst jobs. Mm-hmm. They would work the overnight shifts. Ugh. They would do the most dangerous jobs, the jobs that other people didn't want to do. It was very strict about what they did. It was absolutely punishment.
Heinous.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the Stasi who reported on citizens. So Spiegel, which is a German magazine, I believe, had an article from 2015. East German domestic surveillance went far beyond the Stasi. So Hedwig Richter, a professor at the University of Greifswald, everyone who was in a position with some measure of responsibility filed reports for the state. Like everybody. Eavesdropping on your neighbors was normal, even without pressure from the Stasi. There was no like, hey, we need you to inform on them or we're going to do something to you. It was just people listening to one another and like, ooh, that sounds like they could get in trouble for that. I think I'll get them in trouble.
Yeah, because they probably garnered themselves some credit of sorts, right? Yeah. By being loyal and turning people in and kind of creating their own network of, I mean, not even network, but like just to say like, I'm a good citizen.
Yeah. Because the reports didn't even have to go directly to the Stasi. So there was enough people who wanted to inform but didn't want to be on the Stasi's radar. So they would tell like a local political leader or a factory manager or something like that. They could have a fairly informal conversation and report on their neighbors without being in the Stasi's.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't good. So apartment buildings almost always had a superintendent who kept track of who visited whom and when.
Okay.
Like everybody's coming in and going. School directors, heads of youth organization, election helpers, factory heads. They all reported. They all had some measure of authorities. So they were reporting on people. They would for the school children, they would put, wears Western clothes, likes punk music, has pacifist attitudes. These were the kinds of things they would report on children. And like even the churches, they would have people who would report whether the pastors were preaching anything that might be construed as positive or negative about the GDR's leadership.
Okay.
And if there was any kind of strife within their organization whatsoever, all of it. This was interesting. Historians point to this finely woven web of surveillance as an explanation for East Germany's surprising stability. It fueled the most important disciplinary mechanism, self-censorship. So people didn't know who they could trust.
Right.
So they just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
That's why it lasted so long. Yeah, I know. It's awful.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, wow.
Yeah.
I have things to say that I'm not going to say.
No, we're not going to say them.
And
we're going to self-censor.
Because it's like we're self-censoring.
But it's not helpful, and it's a long time ago, and it's, at least in East Germany, not happening that we know of. But let's end on a lighter note. Okay, so they have a birthday party at the beginning, near the beginning of the episode for Otto, Cleo's grandfather. They sing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. Over a bunch of deer carcasses, but we're going to skip over that.
Yeah.
So it's a popular song for lots of different things, including birthdays. Could be also promotions, weddings, retirements, blah, blah, blah. The tune dates back to the 1700s, and it was a a French folk tune, and Marie Antoinette heard one of her maids singing it, and she popularized it.
Okay.
And it made its way to the UK, and by the mid 1800s was in America as well. And by the time it was popular in both the UK and the US, it had lyrics.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where it came from. But
It's a fun little tune.
Yeah. And I was like, well, is that the only song that they sing for German birthdays? Is that a common song to sing at German birthdays? So ThoughtCo shares with us, that the happy birthday song is the most popular at German birthdays. This was interesting. It should be noted that the English version of the song is heard most often, even at parties where everyone speaks German.
Okay.
It's more popular to hear it in
Happy
English.
Birthday, like the English version.
Yes.
Okay.
But there is another song that is sometimes sung at German birthdays.
Okay.
And it's called How Nice That You Were Born. Written in 1981 by Rolf Zukowski.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. A few lyrics. Today is your birthday. That's why we're celebrating. All your friends are happy for you. How nice that you were born. We would have really missed you otherwise.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's so sweet and a little ridiculous.
It feels more cheesy than a happy birthday song.
Yes.
It's cute, though.
Harder to remember. But
yeah, and I'm sure it loses something in translation, you know, a little bit.
Right. It's probably, yes. Yeah. The sentiment of it is probably.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Next time. So we started this podcast playing a game. And we're going to play a game again. Because it's been a long time since we played a game. I'm so
excited about this because it's like a full turnabout. We're about to do something that we did exactly. The same game.
Yeah.
Just a new iteration.
Well,
a new edition.
Yes. So Hunt to Killer is what we did. And they have a subscription box that you can do. But now they have broadened, since we started this podcast, they have broadened their horizons, and they have games that you can play in a single sitting. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to play Mystery at Magnolia Gardens next time.
I'm so excited.
And what's really exciting is, I'm going to tell you, we barely cover our costs with the advertisements on this.
We do this for fun.
This is a hobby that pays for itself.
Yes.
And Hunt to Killer contacted us and offered us these games that we're going to play. We're going to play one, and then in a few weeks we'll play another one.
I mean, shout out Hunt to Killer. We appreciate it because we launched with you.
That's right.
So to be recognized back is really awesome. So we're really thankful for the opportunity.
Yes, it feels really good. And we're going to have a coupon code for you. Yes. And the whole business is very exciting. I feel like we have arrived in a way a little bit. So, but next time, that's what we're going to do. And of course, I'll have a little research for you. Yeah. And it's very, very fun.
And it'll be a whole different kind of format in a way.
Yeah.
So hang tight. It's going to be fun.
Well, and we'll see. I'm going to try and structure it in a way because it tends to be, maybe the first part will be really structured and then we play the game and record.
We don't know. Just hang tight.
It's hard to know with the game because we don't know where the game is going to go. But I did open the game to make sure everything was there.
Oh, good.
And I didn't look at much, but I looked at a couple of things. So, It's going
to be great.
It is. So, make sure you tell a friend because it's way more fun when you can listen with a friend and talk about it afterwards. It's much more enjoyable for everybody, and it helps us get found if you rate and review. So do that as well, especially if you can do a great review. That'd be really appreciated, especially since the 1-star review that somebody who didn't like banter, which I don't even know why they bothered to listen, but they bothered to take the time to give us a negative review. Bury it. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see it anymore.
No, me either. So until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.